never ever burn a bridge, ever. How does business, quote unquote business, happen?
It doesn't happen overnight. It happens one relationship at a time.
This is going to be my network. I'm done. It's like, no, you're never done.
This dude is he's pretty on top of it. I need to up my game a little bit.
Cliche, right? You get out of it what you put into it. There really is not a generational divide. You're actually, I think, doing yourself a disservice by trying to matrix human beings. And that is a business. It's a business edict.
Being recorded.
I don't think you need to write it down because you're actually living it. You are a media company first, a fill-in-the-blank company second.
Well, I got a podcast for that exact reason.
You're an inspiration on this front. You're doing things that very, very large companies, orders of magnitude greater than us, are not thinking of doing.
I'm going to share a little secret.
It'll
be good to have a conversation with you about that, and then like revisit that a year after and saying like, how is it going?
I'd love to do that.
No, we can talk. This is all a conversation.
It's totally organic, so I like it.
Thank you. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
good to be here.
I thought that maybe you can just start by just introducing yourself, who you are, what your role is.
Sure.
What is your organization? Just your background.
Okay. Atul Apte, CEO of APSI Construction Management. So we're an agency construction management firm, which is, of course, owner's rep. We don't do any design. We don't do any construction. Manage projects for our owners or for our clients. We're out of Irvine, California. So been there ever since we were founded in 1990. So, been in business since. I'm second generation. So my dad started the company. And, his background was in construction. He was an engineer, and he ran controls for a company called CRSS, which was later purchased by Jacobs.
We found out that I was a CRSS.
That was a commonality because you're a CRS alum, which is, that's the beauty of, I think, part of our, the beauty of our industry is
it's a small community.
Yeah, I see it as a spider web.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just every line is linked to another line, and you're going to be linked to somebody for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is really cool. But yeah, so he started the company, and I just went through my schooling, and I did engineering, and out of school.
Where did you go to school?
UC Irvine. Yeah, so I did my bachelor's there in civil.
And you're there now, right?
And I'm in Irvine now. So I've been kind of SoCal for a long time, since 1989.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing.
That's
not a bad thing.
I have no complaints. I've traveled all over the country and all over the world, and I've never really been seduced away by any other location on the planet. So I'm happy where I am, but I'll have to get out as well and see other places like DC, for example. So this is outside of SoCal. This is honestly one of my favorite places to visit.
Well, tell me your story a little bit more. Like, how long have you been the CEO? How did you get there?
So after school, we knew that I was going to go into the quote unquote the family business. This is why I went into engineering, and that was the plan, through no coercion from my parents at all.
But is that what you wanted immediately?
Yeah,
right out of college?
Well, no. I
remember having that conversation.
Yeah, I found my way to it. So I actually started out as a biomedical sciences engineer.
Okay.
Looking at basically pre-med. Long way of saying
like what
pre-med.
A good Indian kid growing up in the States.
So and I didn't exactly rebel too severely. Okay. All I did was go into engineering in the family business. But
okay,
so not exactly a rebellious streak in me at that age. But I discovered that I was probably in it for all the wrong reasons. It didn't speak to me as a field. I knew that I didn't have the patience. Certainly from a personal level, probably my single worst weakness is a lack of patience. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have the patience, certainly at that age, to endure all that it takes to become a medical doctor.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had that existential crisis of, well, okay, now what? And Dad had the business. They never said a word to me about.
So why did you gravitate towards construction?
Without even having a conversation with them, I took some classes, engineering classes, and I would accompany him to the office when I was a kid, and just job sites, when I was a kid, and always found it fun and interesting and cool. Mm-hmm. The idea of building.
Tangible.
It's tangible.
Physically see it. Yeah.
For like a 10-year-old boy, massive equipment,
Oh yeah.
digging holes in the ground.
Who wouldn't like
Almost
this
like
industry?
Yeah, almost in a violent way, right? For like a 10-year-old boy, that's just cool stuff. It's
Yeah,
like you get to have
exactly.
your hands at the till of like this powerful piece of machinery, and
Yeah.
that's what I equated to construction.
Gotcha.
Was the guy who operated the backhoe or the skip loader,
Yes.
right? That was construction to me.
Yeah.
So I think I had a positive view of what construction was because it just seemed like a fun, cool thing with big toys.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, when I grew older, I knew it was a lot more than that. And I saw how hard he worked at it, but he obviously had a passion for it.
Yeah, obviously he's influenced you a lot.
Yeah, he
too.
influenced.
Made a good,
He influenced me.
positive influence in that way.
And he influenced. He was the kind of person who would influence without you realizing you were being influenced. He had the
silent.
Jedi ability to influence. He had.
Do you wish you had
definitely
some
had
of that with you, or maybe you do? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think I do. I don't think I'm as indirect as he was. I mean, I'm probably more gregarious. He was a quiet kind of person. So I think that ability to influence was almost necessary because, I think I'm just more a little verbally to the point.
So fast
But yeah,
forward.
so fast forward.
And then how did
finished
you get-
school.
yeah.
So I went to work right out of school for Hensel Phelps Construction Company.
Not
So
a bad company to get
GC.
experience from.
Fantastic experience.
Yes.
I mean, they really do train their people well in all facets of everything you need to know about managing a project. So I was a field engineer with them doing survey, stake, and layout. Disney's California Adventure. So if you ever go to Paradise Pier at Disney's California
Well,
Adventure,
think of you, Atul.
think of me. I did a lot of the laying out the foundations.
Okay.
So went to work for them, finished up that project, and then went to work for a company called 3D International, 3DI, which is now Parsons. And so got to work with some fantastic people there and got trained more in the owner's rep side of things, right? So a little bit different. So I had my field knowledge, my construction knowledge. Now I'm getting more of project management, construction management, owner's rep. So put that together, and after about 4 years of doing that between those two companies, I came on board at APSI. So I started out as a project engineer, had one of the worst, and by worst I mean one of the least desirable contracts in the company at the time, and that was kind of my dad's way: is you're gonna
work your way.
Yeah,
there's
you're gonna
no,
start the way.
there's no hand me down.
You just show up and be management and sit in the office. That's not gonna happen. So I was flying to Vegas at the Lloyd George Federal Building doing night work, and I was the project engineer on that job, which it was a one-person job. So I was the CM, the project engineer, the everything.
You had the night shift.
But it was a night shift job. I remember we went to the kickoff meeting, and I didn't discover that it was a night shift job until the kickoff meeting. And they said, "Oh, by the way, this is off hours." GSA did, and the PM said, "This is off hours." I was like, "What?" So Mondays I'd go to the office like 7:30 in the morning. I'd catch a noon flight, head to Vegas, check into the hotel, head to the job site, show up to the job site by 5 p.m.
This is true
Work
school
till-
of hard knocks.
Work till 3 a.m.
Yeah.
That was
Work your way.
Yeah, that was my Monday through Thursday. Thursday I'd head back midday,
Yeah.
finish up Thursday and Friday, and that was my week. And so I did that for first 9 to 10 months of my stay at APSI. Then started to go to other projects and get larger projects. So it was, I think it's just more good fortune than anything that the company grew right around that time in the sense of getting bigger and bigger work.
Right.
And so then I started doing bigger and bigger work because that's what the company's portfolio was. And so, got an education in handling larger, more complex projects as a CM, versus just a little TI job, if you will. So, so keep fast forwarding. I took over the company in 2016 as CEO. So
Congrats.
that was the transition after I was vice president, and I was kind of an operations manager, and then COO, and then CEO. So that was kind of the trajectory, and which I'm still learning about it. And I think folks like you and many others here at CMAA it's like I feel like I'm getting, every time I attend one of these, I get a graduate level course, just a little bit of what goes into running a company, I think part of it is therapy, because you hear,
Yes.
we talk to each other about a lot of the
Well,
stresses and issues.
You need to surround yourself
Right.
with people.
And I think just our ability to share, God, I have that same issue, and it kind of drives me nuts. And because the rest of the year we spend thinking it's just me.
Yeah.
I'm the only one dealing with this, and obviously you're not. So.
Well, speaking of CMAA, we're here.
Yep.
2023 National CM Conference. It's a great opportunity. I look forward to it because I love to meet with you.
Yeah.
It's a time for me to catch up with all kinds of people. So talking a little bit about CMAA, how long have you been a CMAA member?
I think I joined, I want to say, hazard a guess, at about year 2000.
Okay.
Right around the time I became a member.
23 years.
23 years. And I think the following year was my first conference. 2001 was my first conference. I think it was San Diego. Might have been the first one that I attended. And it was just attended, I think in those 23 years, 22 years, I think I've missed 2 conferences.
How has CMAA impacted your professional career and
enormously.
Personally as well?
Yeah. In both cases, enormously. I think it showed me the importance of the network.
Wow. We just talked about that earlier.
I'm going back to my dad and the influence. One of the things, and anybody at APSI will tell you this, who's been with us since back when he was running things. One of the first lessons he would say is never ever burn a bridge, ever. And it's so true. And CMAA is kind of a testament to that because it's where you build those bridges.
Right.
It
slowly,
but
23 years. I mean, that's incredible.
And you never stop. I think where you run into trouble is when you figure out, or when you think, okay, this is going to be my network. I'm done. It's like, no, you're never done. You're always building new bridges and making new connections. And CMA does a phenomenal job of providing the place, the incubator where those things happen. So certainly the national conference, the spring forum, and the chapter level issue. Oh yeah. So I became active probably about 5-6 years after I became a member on the board of the Southern California chapter. Eventually became president of the Southern California chapter. So and then from there, founded the Southern California Chapter Foundation with Rebecca Jones. So we were the 2 co-founders of that.
Oh, nice.
And then that foundation experience got me onto the foundation board for national. I was the national foundation board.
I'm going to share a little secret, and maybe I'm going to share it in live here. I didn't know you until I had discovered about your firm. You guys won the Ronald Reagan Building contract here in the DC. Yeah, and I was like, who is this APSI person? And then I started following you, and I was not a very active CMAA member back in, like, I was head down trying to work on the business. But I do remember one of the CMAA conference. It was here in Washington D.C. And you were emceeing one of the opening ceremony, and I was like, man, this dude is pretty. He's pretty on top of it. And so I can personally tell you that your role, CMAA, being just a stellar leader, has at least gotten me to be motivated. I was like, I need to up my game a little bit. I need to get more engaged. So it's making an impact.
No, that's great. And kind of like that, I had others who I saw, behind the lectern speaking, and they inspired me to do it. Certainly Rebecca's a mentor of mine, and many others who I saw that there's a difference when the person who's up on stage, the person who's speaking, they are experiencing the conference very differently than somebody who's quote unquote only attending. I think the way you experience and consume the conference and everything that it has to offer, I think you get a lot more out of it. It's like a cliche, right? You get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah.
And I think the more you put into these things, the more you benefit from them.
And I think that's the key. You surround yourself with the right kind of people. You come here, you meet people, high achievers. And in a lot of ways, it's like, as they say, iron sharpening iron. And you're like surrounding yourself. And we're partners. And we work together and pursue opportunities together. So it's just been a great experience.
We're doing it now, in fact. So
absolutely.
Which I'm super excited about. That our firms are partnering up.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
I think that's important.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it takes it beyond the talk. Let's be honest. We handshake and we smile and we say hi to each other at these things, But where you then take that to the next level is you trust each other to do business
Right.
with each other. And, that's the evolution of that the arc of going, you meet people, you talk to people, you get to know them.
Right.
And that conversation actually turns into business, which when you take 5 big steps back and look at the whole process and the whole thing, that's kind of neat.
Right.
Like, this is how business happens, for people on the outside who are maybe just, not privileged enough, frankly, to be experiencing this
Yeah.
type of stuff. You're right. They kind of say, how does business, quote unquote, business
It
happen?
doesn't happen overnight. It happens
doesn't.
one relationship at a time.
And it's happened slowly.
Yes.
And it's like a redwood,
Yeah.
It's-
Redwood, California theme.
You
I
just,
get
yeah,
it.
there you go. Yeah. Shout out to my home state. And it's a sapling. You have to nurture it. You have
Yeah.
to water it. And it grow. That's what a
We have
relationship
tiny
is.
trees on the East Coast.
Yeah. Well, yours are actually green out here though. Ours.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
But just pivoting a little bit, I
Yeah.
know you and I have spoken a lot about some of the greatest challenges. I interviewed you on the Man on the Streets last year, and asked you what was some of the biggest challenges you think construction faced. Do you remember what you said?
People. 100%. 100%. It's for one thing, it's a cliche. Once again, it's a people industry.
Yeah.
And so we say that because we don't make widgets, right? We're a service industry. We provide people who solve problems, ultimately deliver projects, with their solutions. So our industry does not have as many people coming into it as it does leaving. So it's simple math. Finding those people becomes increasingly more difficult.
What do you and what about like retention?
Yeah, and so that plays a huge part, right? There's two sides of the same coin. Finding people, but also keeping the people you have, so you're not constantly looking for replacing those people. So,
I'm looking for tips, by the way.
oh man,
I'd love to hear your thoughts. So
tips.
talk away.
Yeah. God, I wish I was the oracle of this. I would be in a very different place. But I think as far as retention goes, culture obviously plays a big part in it, and having an identity as a firm and as an organization.
So how do you do that?
So, I think you communicate. You have to get out and meet the people, and meet your people. They have to know who it is that they're working for, and the who isn't just a logo, or an address. They have to connect it to a person, and you have your executive team, your management team, your project team. But it has to be the full. I think, weave that thread throughout the organization, that from president and CEO to the financial side of your house, to the business development side of your house. Great example is I'm sure with you, your BD group reaches out to your technical folks, and they ask for things. I need to know what project you're on. What are you doing on your project? The metrics of your project,
Right.
your resume. I need you to update your resume. I mean, these are in every, I don't care if you're an accounting firm or a law firm or what we do, in a service-oriented firm, this is
Essential,
the deal.
yeah.
It's essential. But it makes a huge difference when the person requesting that information and the person who's receiving the request meet each other. Not over Zoom, not over Teams, meet each other.
Speaking of Zoom
Yeah.
Teams, like how is it impacting this whole hybrid? First of all, what type of work environment are you guys pursuing?
Sure. So
Or decided?
in our home office, we're a hybrid. That's about the only location where I think you can do that, because what we do is on site. So when you have to be on site, you have to be on site. So our field teams are on site. just
Right.
'cause
That's no
that's
way
the
around
nature
that.
of their role. So in our home office, however, it's a little bit different. So we had to go to a hybrid really for no other reason than the whole industry went to hybrid. All of our competitors and our friends in the industry are either work from home or hybrid. So for us to say we're going to go back to 2019,
Right.
and we're all going to go in the office and be in the office day in and day out.
So is
I
it
mean,
working?
It's working. Yeah, I think you make it work.
Make it
You
work.
make it work, but you do
What does
then.
that mean? Like you make it work in what way?
Oh, I think you have to then be purposeful and deliberate about. You have to insert opportunities to get together.
Right,
Yeah,
there's no
you can't take it for
substitution.
granted
Yes.
that we're going to get together in the office because you're not. And you may intersect because so and so's there on Mondays and Wednesdays and Tuesdays, but there may be some cross days where you meet people, but you're talking, oh, I haven't seen you in 3 months, right? Versus when you go to 2019, not seeing somebody who you work with in the same office for 3 months how do you even wrap your head around that? But now you take it for granted that you don't see people for that long. So you have to now have, hey, we're going to go to meet at such and such place for a happy hour. We're going to, have lunch on this Wednesday. So anybody who's available, come on down. I think you have to be very deliberate and insert those types of opportunities to get together. A potluck in the office. It forces everybody to bring a dish. We're going to get in the conference room and, just sit and eat and talk and connect. And so I think as managers, as people who have an interest in creating culture, you have to do those things.
So we have this. We're talking a lot about retention, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what about recruitment?
Yeah.
Like, what about the labor pool that's out there?
That's tough. It's a tough market to find people. I think getting out there, like what we're doing at the conference right now, helps. Your name is out there. I think historically it's always been you got to get out there because the clients have to see you, or that's where you meet, your potential clients or your potential partners. For the last, I would say, 5 years easily, that's where you're going to potentially meet your future team members, employees who you can bring on staff and grow. And so getting out there is big. Getting your name out there is big, because when they get tapped by your recruiter, it makes a huge difference if they've heard of you.
Yeah. So how do you compete with that? Like we're a small business,
Yeah,
both of
likewise.
our firms,
Yeah.
and you're competing in a pool where the companies of the likes of Jacobs and AEComs and they're the known commodity. I mean, I shouldn't say commodity, but they're known, names out
Oh,
there.
sure.
And
Yeah, they have the brand.
Yeah, they have the brand.
Yeah, yeah.
And so how do you compete
Yeah.
to try to get your name out there so there's a comfort level there?
And I'll tell you, I think it used to be harder, I think, than it is now to do that. Partly it was similar to, the COVID and the work from home and the isolation thing just happened to coincide when technology got right to that point when Zoom and Teams was a thing, was a possibility. The internet and the bandwidth just happened to grow right around the time. So it's just a fortunate intersection of circumstances and technology. Similar things, I think, happened with social media. So LinkedIn and some of these other platforms for firms like ours,
Right.
who, maybe we don't necessarily have tower cranes all over the place with our name emblazoned on them, right? So where do you get your branding out? Where do you get your name out? The intersection of social media and that technology and that
Kind of
culture,
leveling.
I think, is leveling the playing field a little bit, and the wiser we are with how we use it.
Well, I got a podcast for that exact reason.
You're an inspiration on this front. You really are. You're doing things that very, very large companies, orders of magnitude greater than us, are not thinking of doing. Somebody once said, I think it was kind of a marketing person, is you are a media company first, a fill-in-the-blank company second.
Wow.
And that is
It's a
business
This is
edict.
being recorded.
Well,
that was excellent.
I don't think you need to write it down because you're actually living it,
Thank you.
right? Think about it, because when I heard that, I thought about you. I thought about what you're doing right here. And it's so true. You are a media company first, a shoe company second, Nike. You're a media company first, a cell phone company second, Apple, right? It doesn't matter what it is. All of us, we're first media companies. You fill in the blank second.
That's great.
And
That's great
I think
perspective.
when you start to live that, you start to, I think, level the playing field. And to answer your question, how do you compete with, some of the mega firms who have all the deep pockets and the resources?
competition is tough in and of
Yeah.
itself, but the labor pool is very, very thin.
Yeah.
I was interviewing a bunch of college kids at Virginia Tech,
Mhm.
and it just seems to me that many of the college kids that are in the construction program did not choose construction programs when they entered. It seems to be most of the people that are in construction like stumbled into construction. I don't know. You have
Sure.
any thoughts on that?
That's a good observation. I mean, I think you could probably count me among them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because what does that mean for us
Yeah, we're
from
not
a recruiting
yeah.
standpoint, right? We don't have necessarily a pool of people who from an early age, or they went to college and they only had that one major and they knew exactly what they wanted to do when they come out. They maybe got out of school, were a little unsure, and stumbled across.
Yeah. Do you think
one of
the
our job
construction
boards.
industry gets sort of the bad, rap on like what it is?
Yeah,
You
I
know,
think so.
everybody wants their kids to be doctors, lawyers, IT,
Yeah, going to tech.
everything but construction.
Right.
But this field is incredible.
Sports and entertainment is another one.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people want to become sports agents. It's they think that's the and there's a glamour to it.
Yeah,
So there's a glamour
glamour.
factor,
Yeah.
no doubt. Yeah, we could definitely do a better job of capturing people's imagination about what it is that we do. And it shouldn't be too tough, because what it is that we do is critical. I mean, what we do has a lasting impact on society at large. I mean,
Yeah.
who didn't go to a school, who hasn't been to a hospital or driven across a bridge?
Right. It's the building of our infrastructure that keeps our livelihood.
It is essential, and
Quality of life. All the
Yeah.
quality of life things that you see is because of engineers
Right.
and construction.
society's needs
Mm-hmm.
don't get met without the built environment.
That's correct.
But that's not like a PSA you'll ever read, right? There's no billboard
Yeah.
pushing
Yeah, that's correct.
this, and there's no TV show about, right? There's mass media.
Yeah.
There's nothing on Netflix streaming where people are like, oh my God, did you see that episode last night about the construction managers, right? But lawyers, doctors.
I've often thought that
got
I
100
could,
of them. Yeah.
for the longest time, I had this crazy idea that we could start a sitcom about the construction industry just to bring it together. Because there's no sitcom or anything,
Right.
stories about. There's always lawyers and
Right.
doctors and everything else
Yeah.
but construction
There's no
professionals.
character.
There's
right?
no
You
character.
need that one character.
Yeah.
That captures people.
Maybe you and I, you're in Hollywood, so you can,
I'm close. Yeah.
I'm sure you know someone there.
I'm not in Hollywood.
Well,
I
mean, in that
I
vicinity,
live
right?
closer to Hollywood than you do, and that's pretty one of the similarities then between me and Hollywood. No, that's a fair point. How do you entertainment captures the public's imagination,
Yes.
right? So, and we're very much an entertainment society. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you kind of need that one character on a show that does what we do, and so kind of give a lens, into what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're right. Everybody's either a doctor, a lawyer, or this or that, or finance.
So we covered the full scope.
Yeah.
We got the retention, I guess the recruitment. Any lasting thoughts about the topic?
I think one thing out there, I've attended a lot of these sessions, and I think we've talked about it a little bit in our groups, is when it comes to recruiting, retention, the generational divides.
Generational divide.
And I don't know, I've kind of zigged when most people have zagged on this topic, where personally, my own observation is there really is not a generational divide. I see the same groupings of personalities transcend generations. You have people in their 60s who prioritize money over all else, and people in their 20s who prioritize money over all else. Same thing for the company culture. I think where your priorities fall in your totem pole of priorities, it's not, to me at least, dictated by what generation you belong to. It's individualized.
Okay.
And that actually comes full circle to meet your people, know your people. Because you actually, in my experience, in my opinion, you run the risk of actually turning a person off and even offending them by assuming that because
there is a
they're of a
divide.
certain generation, that they think a certain way or they prioritize certain things. And if you're wrong in your assumption, because
Oh, you're speaking to me. That's
Yeah.
great.
You're actually, I think, doing yourself a disservice by, trying to matrix human beings. They're not. Each person is their own person, and you better get to know them
On an
for
individual
who they are.
individual basis.
Not that's my Gen X or that's my baby boomer and that's my millennial. So therefore, I think we overtalk that topic. And
I've been guilty of doing that. Oh my gosh,
we all have because it's everywhere,
Yes.
right? I mean, we've kind of almost been indoctrinated in, millennials are like this, and and it's funny because couldn't even hazard a guess to when I saw this, but there was something on ancient Egypt, one of these channel surfing things, right? I landed on something on ancient Egypt, must have been unusually late at night. And they had the tapestry from ancient Egypt. And when they translated this tapestry, it was just an older generation complaining about the ways of the younger generation. This thing was like 5,000 years old, right? And
People have not changed one bit.
People have not changed. The older generation will, from now till the end of time, complain
we just want
about
to
the younger
complain.
generation. It's just they're not like us. They don't think like us. They don't talk like us. They don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, neither did you. And everyone complained about it, and everybody's waiting for doom to strike because.
Yeah, that's some great insight there.
I had a joke that we all think that technology was amazing and progressive until your 40th birthday. And everything that was invented after your 40th birthday portends doom for humanity. So everything was invented before your 40th
That's
birthday.
excellent. Where did you get
amazing.
this? This is something.
That's something I just thought of because it's an observation, really. Because it almost
That
seems
is an
like
excellent observation.
turn 40 and all of a
Now
sudden
I'm going to be
all
thinking
of my
about
peers,
it every time I complain about something technology.
Yeah. All my peers are now kids these days. I'm like, when did that change? Because at 39, this was just fine,
Yeah,
right?
the moment you cross over the
Totally.
clock hits the 12, you're like, oh my gosh, what has happened?
Yeah.
I think that ends about our conversation.
This is fun.
But I do have some rapid questions for you to answer. All right. Yeah. What is the coolest thing that's happening in the construction industry?
The coolest thing that's happening in the construction industry, boy, depends who you ask. It's cool from maybe a 30,000 foot level, and that's automation of things, right? And AI is a whole other ballgame when it comes to automation. But even just taking functions and automating them so that people are spending their brain power on things that are higher level, thought processing as opposed to rote. You've seen it in other industries. Automotive is a great example of just how automated things got. And, cars today are just infinitely better. I mean, it depends who you ask, honestly. But in terms of reliability, safety, some of the things, the table
California
stakes
is doing really innovative stuff with the autonomous vehicles and stuff. So.
Yeah, you have that that feature, and there's limits to that from a legal and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Fine, but automation is, I think, one of the things that it seems like construction's finally starting to think about and adopt. Now you have people for very good reason who bristle at automation because, let's be honest, we all know what that means. There are people who may lose jobs or sectors of the industry that may lose out,
right?
Because there always are, and so I would say it'd be cool for us to adopt automation and go there, but at the same time, figure out a way or a process that those who are going to be affected by it have a place where they can develop skills to still be applicable and engage.
What's the biggest challenge we're facing in the construction industry?
Yeah, it's the same as last year, man. It's finding people.
Finding people.
Yeah.
What's your prediction on the biggest change that we'll see in 5 years from now?
Yeah, I think it's the automation. I think it's. I think we're going to see certain functions, and they're tied. I think it's because we're not able to find people. Where there's a will, there's a way, and to me, like, necessity is the mother of everything. So
you get some really good quotes today.
You're bringing it out in me. When you just can't find the labor to fulfill a function, you'll invent a way for that function to get performed. It's just going to happen.
That's great. Best advice someone has ever given you?
Never burn a bridge.
key piece of advice you'd give to a young professional?
Try everything.
Best compliment you've ever received?
Best compliment. Oh man, that's a hard one. That's a
For a modest guy yourself, you
that's always a tough one to try to figure out. Best compliment I received. I think probably I'd say approachability. People have said just within our
I would
company that
agree
you're
with that.
approachable. And
yeah, extremely
I
approachable.
like to be approachable, so I would consider it a compliment.
Well, Atul,
Yeah.
that just about wraps things up. I appreciate you coming
thanks.
to the build up.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
I
That was fun.
appreciate the time.